Are you going to intro us? This is going perfectly. Ooh, Mark's going to intro the show. Ooh.
Please don't fire me.
Listen, I get it. You've been away for a couple of weeks since we've recorded. It's been a minute, you know? Gotta get yourself back into the swing of things.
Okay.
I totally understand. Okay. All right. Take two. You got this.
Hello. Welcome to the Pushing Buttons podcast with Anniepoo and Marks. My name is Anniepoo, and I will... Oh, wait, no, I opened my own.
You had one job.
Okay, I can do it. I'm fine.
Can you do it? Take three?
Yes, I can do it. I can do it.
Okay.
My fingy guns will bring me the power. Okay, anyways. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pushing Buttons podcast with Anniepoo and Marks. Here on the Pushing Buttons podcast. This is just going to be it.
What?
Hey, it's Annie.
Turn into ASMR?
It's Anniepoo. Did you guys miss me? Anyways, here on the Pushing Buttons podcast, we give each other titles every week, right? Yeah?
We do. Yes, that is something we do.
Yeah, my name is Anniepoo, and I did the intro today. If you can call it the intro.
At what cost, I wonder? At what cost?
It only took me 3 tries, and even the third try, we just pushed through it.
For reference, Annie asked me to do the intro 2 days ago, and was just like, hey, when we record, is it okay if I do the intro? I want to do the intro. And I'm like, yeah, sure, sounds good. And here we are. And right before we actually started recording, Annie was just like, hey, I know I said I wanted to do the intro, but I don't want to do the intro anymore. Can you do the intro? I'm like, no, you committed to this. And I had also given you the title at that point. Well, my name is Marks, and I will not be replacing Anniepoo on Pushing Buttons podcast.
Except you might now after the...
I was about to say, I think we're going to have to bring this up to upper management, and we're going to go through your performance review afterwards.
No. Can I get, can we extend that by a couple of weeks?
I mean, I guess you haven't been here for the past couple of episodes, so you're getting really close on, what's that period? Probation. Yeah, you're really close on the end of your probation period. So, we'll have to see what Big Chief Mr. Pushing Buttons has to think about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is
okay.
Who?
Well, yeah, John Pushing Buttons. You don't know him? He's been corresponding.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. You've been just calling him John lately. I thought that was a little bit rude, given,
funny?
He kind of funds the podcast. Yeah, go ahead.
My boss's name is John.
Oh. Okay, it's Mike Pushing Buttons.
To be completely clear, John Pushing Buttons is not John Community Gaming, my boss.
Yep, not Mr. Community Gaming. That is true. Okay, well, here on the Pushing Buttons podcast, it's a slice of life esports themed podcast, and these last couple of episodes, my lovely voice has still been here. I am deeply apologize about that one, but we've had a couple of guests because Annie was away doing a whole bunch of different things. As a matter of fact, I don't think Annie's been at their apartment for a month until this week, basically.
Last week I came back.
Okay.
A timeline of events of all of the things that happened. Okay.
Yes.
I went to Brazil in February. Was there for about 2 weeks. And then I went to New York after Brazil for about a week. Then I came back to my home, to my apartment for about a week. I could have recorded the podcast, but Marks wanted to replace me. Those 2 episodes with Betty and Ravish, those were actually auditions for the new host. He's trying to replace me.
Should I leak the DM where I'm just like, oh, if you're going to be back, do you want to record? And you were like, no, you should do it. I need a break. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That didn't happen.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't. You're gaslighting me now.
No, you're gaslighting me.
Fine. If that did happen, you can leak the DM. But I don't think it happened. Good. I'm gonna go in and delete those messages before you have a chance.
I'm being gaslit so hard right now.
No, I won't. I don't remember saying that, but that sounds accurate because the week afterwards, I was only at my apartment for a week because I went to Astral Clash in Las Vegas, the marginalized gender LAN hosted by Gen G. And yeah, I haven't been at home. I'm tired.
Yep.
My apartment's a mess.
Hey, you got the Instant Pot behind you. I can see it this time.
Yeah, I'm making vegetable broth for my dinner.
Oh, that's good. Just in time for the end of this podcast. I would hope that you timed it for the end of this podcast.
It's actually been ready for like 4 hours.
Oh.
It's just it's on keep warm right now.
Ah, good setting. Love that setting. All right, now we got our food bit out of the way, so we can actually talk about esports again. I swear that's a recurring theme whenever we record
Is it?
this.
It's because we always record like
now and
after your dinner time and before my dinner time.
Oh, yeah. So just like food on the mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's back it up a little bit. Let's talk about Lock-In, because that was kind of the big, giant tournament where you were potentially going to be away for the entirety of February. And while I was, damn, that bad, huh? No, while we were kind of just like messaging each other, it came up pretty frequently where like we were just like talking about stuff, and then you were like, "Oh, I can't tell you this because this is a podcast story," and I'm like, "All right, that's cool."
But I did tell everybody else.
Yep, thanks for that. I love being included. I love inside jokes. But let's just back it up because let's start with the flight, because I saw it on Twitter that you were just it was just not happening for you, huh?
Yeah, things were not happening. And I also recorded a video too, of me narrating this entire situation. So perhaps I will post that on Twitter one day as well. But I was set to fly out to Brazil at some point. I don't remember what date it was anymore. It was either February 3rd or February 6th. I have no clue. Maybe it was the 5th, but that's not relevant. I had 2 legs to get to Brazil. That's where I was at. Yeah. And
You're doing great, by the way.
First flight was supposed to be from Seattle to Chicago, and then Chicago to Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Okay.
There was only 1 hour layover time between when I arrived in Chicago and when I was supposed to get to Sao Paulo, but the 2 gates were almost directly across from each other, so we could make it.
Yeah.
We didn't make it, but not because of my fault or anything, not because of anyone's fault. The flight to Chicago was really chill and great until I heard over the intercom the flight attendant announce, "Is there a medically licensed professional on board?"
Yeah.
And there was. In first class of all places, of course, those medically licensed professionals making so much money. But
they make that bank.
They brought this person back down the airplane to help another person. I still don't know what exactly happened to this person. All I know is that the plane had to be diverted. It had to be grounded to let this person go to the hospital. It was probably a stroke or a heart attack, but we needed to get on this ground and get this person to a hospital. They were conscious when they left the plane. At the very least, I did see that they were awake and somewhat aware of their surroundings. So I hope that they made that through okay. But because our plane got diverted to South Dakota, I did not make my flight from Chicago to Brazil.
Yep.
And I was very stressed. And I was like, I don't know what the heck is going on. And I was really frustrated because I was a player handler in Brazil. I was set to arrive in Brazil before the team that I was with did. So I was hoping when I got to Brazil, I would get through all of the steps of being at that specific airport already. And I could tell them, hey, this is what you have to look forward to when you land. This is what customs looks like when I got there. This is where you're going to meet your driver to get from the airport to the hotel. And that didn't happen, and I was really frustrated. And when they arrived, I was in the plane because I did get my plane rebooked. I stayed overnight in Chicago. I did make it to Chicago eventually, but I stayed overnight in Chicago and got the next flight out of Brazil, which was like 24 hours later. But when I was on that flight finally to Brazil, I had to work because the team was already there.
Yep.
So I had in-flight Wi-Fi. I was using WhatsApp and communicating with the team manager and everybody and trying to answer questions when I'm not on the grounds myself. And I was stressed and I had no clue what was going on. And yeah. And then I got to Brazil.
Yay!
Yay! I made it.
Yeah, after a little bit of difficulty there, like while you were in it, I could definitely sense that you were stressed out is a light way of putting that one. But once you arrived in Brazil and you were able to kind of like meet the team and stuff like that, how was it just kind of interacting with the group of people, like the people who were there to also work on this massive tier 1 tournament?
Yes.
Okay, good answer.
I had a lot of fun.
Okay.
Sorry, you wanted me to expand on this. That's
Yes,
what a
that would be
podcast
great.
is.
This is an audio medium upon which people listen in for stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I should expand on it. I got there. I got to Brazil.
Yes, you did.
I got to Brazil. And in true Anniepoo fashion, went from the airport directly to the hotel, checked in, got my room, and then went straight to work. Took a shower and then just took a shuttle from the hotel to the venue. I had slept for maybe 4 hours on that flight. It was, I think, 11 o'clock in the morning when I went to work at the venue.
Yeah.
And I got to meet everybody there. I got to meet the player management team. I got to meet the team that I was a handler for, which I can say is like, it's Evil Geniuses. It's just so much easier to say EG. I was with EG.
Yeah. The team that I was the player manager for. Yes,
yeah,
I love this team.
Yeah. I was the player handler for EG, and I did get to meet them very briefly. And that was cool and stuff, but player management, I got to meet all of the other handlers. We spent a lot of time together. Like every day after work, we would hang out in the evenings and stuff. We got to talk. These people are like people who come from all walks of life, all different countries, right? I met a Brazilian man who has lived for 12 years in Korea and speaks 6 different languages. I was like, you and me have the same job? We didn't have the same job, but
Okay.
he is a translator.
True. Yeah, I was about to say, if he speaks that many languages, I would imagine he's probably translating for a broadcast audience. But
yes. But I got to meet so many people, and it was really fun because esports is something that brought us all together. It's everybody's passion, right? So even though we come from different cultures, we live in different geographical areas. I believe those are called continents. You
would be correct, yes.
We already had this one thing in common, which is a love for esports and like wanting to grind, wanting to work in this industry. And so it never felt like I was really out of place. It didn't feel like it was a different environment, or a different culture, I should say, a different culture than what I'm used to in the States. It's like, this is going to sound so cringe. Ugh. Esports is its own culture.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Put that up on your fridge. Anniepoo 2023. Esports is its own culture.
We all speak the same language in esports. Suffering.
Is this what this gamer talk is all about?
What gamer talk?
Oh, just like, saying things are like sad and shit like that. Does that count as like esports? Or are you talking more on just like a cultural level of just like, yes, we understand the pain that is grinding in esports?
Yeah, it's the grind. Gotcha. It's the pain.
Yeah.
It's like also the excitement and community and the way that, it's video games, like the nerdiest thing. It's not the nerdiest thing, but it's pretty nerdy, pretty geeky. Like to work in, to make your passion, this is like supporting people who point and click good. But
Sorry, total sidebar, but when you talk about like pointing and clicking good, it's so funny to me sometimes when I have to try and explain like, oh yeah, like if a player has like a wrist injury, how that can like literally affect their entire career and stuff like that, because people who are a lot more just like used to like traditional sports and whatnot, they're like, yo, like concussions, no big deal, just get back on the field and you're continuing to run down the field. So it's just kind of like, it's always funny to me when it's just like, yes, esports players, injuries, all those little click heads type of things, they're all extremely important. And it also just kind of puts, I think, esports in general into perspective sometimes.
Yeah. Esports in general. But yeah, I got to meet a lot of people. I also got to meet the observers that I already knew and kind of already knew. So the 4 observers that were there were Sapphire, Yeti, Prius, and Singa. And I didn't personally know Singa or Prius beforehand. I didn't get to spend a lot of time talking to Singa either, actually. But I did spend a decent amount of time with Sapphire, Yeti, and Prius, who, by the way, I walked up to Prius. Well, I saw like Prius and Yeti on the day that I arrived in Brazil at the venue. And I just, I made eye contact with Yeti and just like I struck a really weird pose. I'm not going to do it, but I just basically, okay.
This is how we entice people to watch us on YouTube.
Can you narrate? I don't know how to describe this. I went like this.
Okay. You put your arms up to the side, kind of hunched over, and you look like you're about to go full goblin mode. How about that?
Yeah, okay. So I posed as if I was going to go goblin mode. I looked him in the eye. I was trying to intimidate him. I don't think it worked. Yeti is like a full head taller than me, by the way.
Yeti is a tall person. Yes.
But, yeah, so I said, oh my gosh, hi, it's so good to see you. And then I looked at Prius because I've never met Prius before. And I went
goblin pose.
No, I didn't know. I was regularly posed.
Okay, all right. Important distinction. I was nice to meet you.
I was regularly posed by this point. But Prius, I said hi to Prius. I said, hi, my name is Annie. And then he goes, oh, okay. And then 15 seconds later, he goes, oh, by the way, I'm DJ. And I was like, okay. I mean, like, I already knew that, but like the amount of time between when I said, hi, I'm Annie, and when he said, oh, hey, I'm DJ, was just so... DJ is Prius, by the way. I can call him that because we're friends.
Okay.
It was just really awkward for a moment. And then he didn't follow me back on... I had already followed Prius on Twitter for a little while, but he waited like 5 days into the trip to follow me back on Twitter. And I called him out on it, actually. I saw him in person. I called him out. It was like, why'd you ego me on Twitter? And he goes, oh, Sapphire taught me to ego people. And I was like, what? Yeah, I don't know, but like he did that on purpose.
Oh, okay. So it was premeditated.
He waited days before following me back on Twitter. He waited seconds enough to make it awkward before introducing himself. I got egoed by Prius.
It's because you didn't strike the goblin pose. If you struck the goblin pose, I'm pretty sure he probably would have been intimidated, and then you would have been easy, no awkwardness. It would have been great.
Do you think so? Is that how I should introduce myself to people from now on, with the goblin pose? I didn't do that.
With full confidence, I should say yes.
I didn't do that when I introduced myself to evil geniuses as their player handler. Do you think that if I had done that...
They 100% would have respected you more. They would have just followed everything that you said.
Okay, here's the thing. So, like, I think they already respected me a lot. So
yeah, and they would have respected you more if you hit them with the goblin, is all I'm saying.
No comment. I don't.
You were thinking for a second. Yeah.
I'm afraid of digging my own grave if I say more words.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about you being a player handler for EG and stuff like that. So what was it kind of just like, running around the venue and kind of leading this team with like some of the stuff that they did? And also too, seeing other people around as well, because by nature of just the event, so many people are going to be gathered together, and you kind of talked about it already, but it's this weird communion put together where everyone is just kind of like, esports.
Isn't that a religious word?
I thought more of like maybe it's a religious word. I'm not too sure. I'm not really good with words, which is pretty bad because of a caster, but here we are. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, let's talk about being a player manager first, because
Okay.
I wasn't a player manager. I was a player handler.
Handler, sorry. Yeah.
Player handlers work in player management, but my title was team handler or player handler. So player handlers are supposed to be the third party between the tournament organizer, which in this case is Riot, and the team or the player, which is if it's not a team tournament, which in this case for me was Evil Geniuses. In the case for other people, it's NRG, Cloud9, DRX, etc., all of the teams that came and competed in Lock-In. I am there to advocate for the team. If they have any questions about the tournament, any concerns, like for example, a question, can we get our in-ears in advance? That all of the players wear in-ears plus a headset when they're on stage for noise isolation purposes. And so if they have questions like that, if they have concerns like that, I am the person that will bring it to Riot, and I will ask and advocate in their favor. Similarly, if Riot Games has a ruling, a competitive ruling, or important messages that they would like to give out to the teams or an individual team, I am that person who is going to bring that message to the team and to the players to let them know what's up. Player handlers are kind of in this weird space where you are contracted with the tournament organizer, but you're also working with the team. There's a certain level of neutrality that you have to keep in mind as you're working this job, but you also have to understand to be empathetic to the team.
Yeah.
You have to learn also to be really stern. If Riot comes in and says, stand your ground. If Riot comes in and says, you guys can't do this, you have to be like, no, you can't do this. And you have to be the bad guy, the messenger for the bad guy. Riot's not a bad guy. But
I was about to say we need to add a disclaimer onto that one, but continue.
If like,
you have to deliver the bad
sometimes,
news.
I have to deliver the bad news. Is what I mean. But it's a fun time. It's different from other like esports things I've been doing. Of course, most of the other esports gigs that I do are mostly broadcast focused, right? So I'm not really interacting with players unless I have to pull them aside for an interview. Which one of my duties for, I said duties.
You did say duty.
One of my duties as a player handler is actually bringing players over to interview. So I would get information from the various broadcast teams, from regional levels, from global level, to grab certain players for interviews, for press conferences, and bring them around and stuff. On days where they were recording features is like their media features, like their in marketing videos, the hype videos and such, their pictures for broadcast. I am responsible for looking over their schedule for the day, communicating the schedule with them, making sure that they have the correct wardrobe that they need, that they have their jerseys and whatnot, and that they're dressed and ready to go. And I shuffle them around. And so I got to see the sets far in advance.
And how cool was actually like the filming of a lot of these hype videos? Because that's one of the things that's always stood out to me about like Riot's production on especially VCT. Like they put like a lot of effort into it.
They put a lot of effort into it. And seeing the sets and seeing everybody work on the sets was really cool. They're also extremely efficient because in the span of maybe 3 days, they go through 16 teams.
Yeah.
Per set, because there's multiple sets that they filmed on, right?
Yeah.
And it looked really expensive, and I was really scared to touch anything. And the entire time I was there too, I was thinking, I want to take photos, like my own photos for the memories, because the set looks really cool in person.
Yeah.
It looks different in person than it looks on camera. And the set that they built for, it was like the computer screen set.
Oh, yeah, the bunker. Yeah.
That set had a lot of components built that weren't even shown in the videos. Like there was so much detail that they didn't even use. And I was like, this is really cool. Like, I want to take photos of this, but I don't know if I'm allowed to. And like, out of respect, I didn't either, because I didn't want people to have to worry about if this random player handler is going to leak the set before the videos go out. Yeah. So I didn't take any photos, but I can watch those videos and be like, damn, I was there.
You can mentally picture yourself just off the camera to the right of the Evil Geniuses promo video.
Yeah, sure. That's not where I was standing. I actually was in a separate room most of the time. Myself, I gave the teams like their space. I say teams because there was a portion of the trip where I wasn't with Evil Geniuses the entire time. I was with Evil Geniuses the entire time, but I also picked up a second team very briefly for a day because of an emergency. I'll just say. Yeah. Some stuff happened and I took care of another team for a little bit. But I gave the teams their space because I'm not once again, I wasn't part of the team. I'm a third party between Riot and the teams that I'm with. And
you're the middleman.
I'm the middleman.
All those startups are trying to take you out, but you know what? You're still there and you're going to do your job.
Yeah, I'm there. So and this is a really special moment for a lot of these teams. Most of them, I think all of them, at least in North America, were there with completely new rosters. So it's important for them. I'm sure, they got to boot camp and get to know each other beforehand too. But this is an experience that should be very special for them. They should have bonding time. And so I just was like out of their way most of the time. I had to be with them for their media features. I was there for some of the press conferences and recordings, and I was there for rehearsals. I was there with them for a lot, but also not with them in many different ways. I was physically there, but I was just like, I'm going to be out of your way. This is your time. This is your journey. And I am here if you need anything.
Yep.
Call me if you need me.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, that's really interesting. And I do think that not like you don't know, I guess, what specifically team handlers kind of do. And so that's kind of insightful to hear because, yeah, like thinking about it as kind of like the mediary body and not the person who's just like, aha, I am responsible for this team. I mean, you kind of are, but at the same time, you want to make sure that the players are getting the tournament experience and like, get to experience all of that. And so pivoting a little bit, so little peek behind the curtain, we have notes about what we wanted to talk about on this episode. And one of them is that you wrote down, I love radios. Can you please explain that one?
I did write down, I love radios. So we got radios we had prod radios. Sorry, I'm getting into technical terms here, like Anniepoo
the walkie-talkies,
terms.
Right?
Nobody knows what that means except me. But the headsets, headsets when you're watching a live event or you're on a set for something, everybody's wearing headsets, like a little microphone.
Oh yes, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on communication lines which are basically radios with lots of different channels for different departments to communicate to one another. I had that on show days for me, which is every day that Evil Geniuses played and the one day that I took over for another team.
Yep.
It was NRG, by the way. And I'm saying that now because I remembered I appeared in one of their vlogs. I'm just like, I'm in the background. Somebody So I was trying really hard to be, I know you asked me a question about radios, but I need to get this out of my head.
Okay. All right. Sure.
I was trying really hard to be out of cameras because there were a lot of people who were filming content for their teams, right? Of course, this is a really big event. You want to get content. I was trying so hard to be out of cameras in general because I don't want to be on camera in any of these teams' vlogs, but I made it anyways. One of my friends messaged me. It's like, hey, is this you? In the energy vlog? And I looked at it and I was like, shit, yeah, it is me.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What were you doing in the background? Were you goblin posing?
I was on my phone.
Oh no. Don't let your employer see that one. No.
No, I was on my phone. I was on my phone because I was using my phone to try to figure out who I needed to take to do interviews and who to do press.
Okay.
And I didn't know the faces of any of these players beforehand. So I was looking at my phone and they were like, we need Crashies for an interview. And I was like, okay. And I looked around, or I looked at all the players and I was like looking at their jerseys because they have their names on the back. And I was like, which one is Crashies?
Yeah. I do remember you telling me that you had to study what the EG team faces kind of looked like before you went to
I did. I had flashcards too.
Yeah, you didn't want to mess it up.
I think I may have messed it up once. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
But I did study their faces. That sounds so creepy. Somebody posted a photo on Twitter of them at the airport and I used my iPad to write on that photo. I was like, okay, this one is Jeffrey Lou. This one is Jeffrey Reformed Lou. This one is Brendan BCJ Jensen. This one is, I don't know who this person is, but I am sure I'll figure it out later. This one is Alexander Moore. And I was just like, and then like Ethan wasn't in that photo. So I was like, okay, so when I see somebody,
he's the one who's not here.
Yeah. So that's how, yeah.
You got academic with it. I appreciate that.
Yes. I made sure to study it.
Yeah, that's important, especially too, given the fact that you're going to be with all these teams for quite a period of time. Well,
between 2 and 4
right?
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyways, you had a question about radios.
Radios, yes.
The production headsets that we have are lines of communications to various departments, and I got to have one, and it was so much fun to have. I love radio. So for those of you guys who don't know, I used to work in live events, and in live events, I also carried around a radio, and all of the time people would go, hey, is events online? And I would be like, go for events. And then they would say the thing that they need. And then I would say the thing in response. And it was just, I really love radios, okay? And it was nice to be in a dynamic environment where you need a radio again to communicate between like different parties, because I love chaos so much. And
sorry, do you love chaos so much though? Because I feel like you spend a lot of time trying to reduce the amount of chaos that can happen in your life.
I love live event chaos. I don't love internal in my head chaos.
Okay, two very different things.
Yeah, I love chaos. Yeah. It's so much fun too to hear other people's comms in the headset about, what are the things that are going on.
So you were creeping on the other teams is what I'm hearing.
No, I didn't get to. Actually, I did hear team comms in my headset, and we needed to in case they needed something on stage. So like if somebody was like, hey, yo, Annie, can I get a Red Bull? I would like prepare that Red Bull in the back room and then give it to one of the refs to bring over to them.
Okay.
So I did get to listen to team comms. Oh, you meant other teams. I actually meant like production teams. But okay.
I'm sure the EG behind the scenes was a good time getting people Red Bulls and everything.
Yes. I had a very organized system for getting people their Red Bulls, okay?
Yeah. I'm sure you did. Gamers love Red Bulls.
Yes. I drank a lot of Red Bulls on that trip.
Did you actually?
I don't like Red Bull. I just
Do you
really
like it now?
needed the caffeine. No, I still don't like
okay.
Red Bull. I'm more of a
Okay.
Monster person.
That's okay. We're gonna have to agree to disagree because I feel like that's opening up a whole can of energy drinks that we don't need to get into right now.
Okay. But yeah, so yes, production teams. I think I only had 2 other production teams in my headset at that time, but at other events, I've also in my headset, I would have lines to maybe 4 or 5 different ones. I mentioned earlier I went to Astral Clash, right? At Astral Clash, I had 4 different lines that I had access to. I had production, I had observers, I had competitive ops, and I had one more, but I don't remember what the 4th one was. I didn't use the 4th one that much, so I didn't have it. I don't remember what it was. But it's fun listening to all of the different parts that go on for an event, right? There's so many different moving parts, and they all come together into one cohesive product. I think that's the beauty of live events and of live broadcasts. Is that everybody is working together on their individual thing to make one vision happen. And it is so much fun. I don't have any other words for it. I love it, man.
You know what's kind of funny, and I'm going to throw something that Betty actually said when I last recorded the previous episode with her, and it was that like it's almost fun when you're in a live event and something kind of goes wrong, just to kind of see how everybody
solving.
pulls their heads together to try and like figure some of this stuff out to make sure that like the whole thing, like the whole ship can continue to sail, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that basically what you're describing as well?
No. Because
I am lost and confused. I am a scared child.
I mean, maybe kind of, but
Okay.
it's not just when a problem happens that it's fun, right? It's just every single step of the way you are working on something while another person is doing another thing. It's like the different components of an engine that make an engine run.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cool to see it all
That's what
come
I'm hearing.
together.
Is in another life you were an engineer?
Next question.
You look uncomfortable by that. Okay. Okay. Well, I guess like the fact that you were also able to make it to like lock-in and stuff like that, and you were there for 2 weeks before you did fly back.
Lock-in.
You Annie, listen. You were there in lock-in. We've got that video that I asked you to record, and then you recorded it for like half a second in front of the VCT logo, and you're like, "Oh, it's a plane," and that was the only video you sent me while you were in Brazil to use for the podcast. I'm like, "Were you in Brazil?"
I was in Brazil. I have proof. I have a stamp on my passport.
Oh, there you go. Okay, that's more than enough. Okay, and then like shortly after that, like when you were leaving, you had a very impromptu trip to New York right after, right?
Yeah, I went to New York. I got to work at the community gaming office while I was in New York. I got to actually meet a couple of my coworkers, a few of my coworkers for the first time. That was cool. And we went to some networking events, and I met a lot of other different people, and just talked to a bunch of people. It was really fun. Speaking of which, one of these people I met ties back in to a story I have in Brazil. So it was weird the way that my Brazil trip and the spontaneous trip to New York kind of connected together because of 2 people. So I was at the hotel in Brazil, and I was going down the elevators to breakfast.
Okay.
And somebody who was staying on the same floor as me, I didn't know this person yet, but they were also there for the event. And it was the 2 of us waiting for the elevator on our floor. He looks at me, looks down on his phone, looks at me, and then looks at his phone again. And I was like, that's a little weird, but okay. And then we both get into get in the elevator. And then when the elevator doors closed and we were like down a floor or 2, he asked, "Hey, you're Anniepoo, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And the next words that come out of his mouth was, "Oh, my friend stole your observer reel." And I was like,
Please go on. Wait, what?
I was like, in my head, I was thinking, what the fuck is happening right now?
Just in Brazil, in an elevator.
I'm here as a player handler, not as an observer. I'm not like known as an observer outside of Game Changers, really.
Yeah.
And so for somebody to have to ask me in Brazil of all places, are you Anniepoo? By the way, my friend copied. He said copied, not stole. My
Okay,
bad.
that's a very important distinction, but continue.
Copied is still like, I don't know about that. But for somebody to say, oh, my friend copied your reel, I was like, am I in a fever dream right now? This cannot be real life. What the hell is happening? And so he expanded on to say like, oh yeah, so my friend is an observer and he didn't know how to pull together a reel. So he searched up Valorant observer reels and your reel came up. And so he copied some components of your reel. And I was like, oh, can I see it? Because I was a little worried too that the reel would have some of my clips in it because I wasn't really sure what copied meant, right?
Yeah.
It could mean like, oh, I took inspiration from the way that you synced the clips to the music. It could be, I really like the way that you put your title card in there. It could be like, I literally took a clip of your observing and pretended it was mine. And that's what I was worried about. So I asked to see it and he did show it to me. Hi, Abe. I'm talking about you. And luckily, thankfully, because I don't know what kind of fight I would have put up if one of my clips were stolen for another person's reel. It was the title card that he copied because in the beginning of my observer reels, I put my contact information and I put it again at the end. And I did that because I want people to know who they're watching. I think in previous observer reels I've seen, like maybe in early Valorant days, people only put their contact information at the end. And I was like, that's a little silly. You should put your information at the beginning too, as like a title card. So I did that. And that's the part that he copied is what I learned. So it wasn't that dramatic, but I got to New York. Okay. And I went to a networking event at a venue called Brookland. It's in Brooklyn and it's a LAN venue.
Wow, who would have guessed that one?
Yeah. I went to Brookland. In Brooklyn, New York. And
thank you for clarifying. Sorry,
I just wanted
it a LAN venue?
Yeah. It's a LAN venue in Brooklyn called Brookland. You get it because it's like
I'm following. Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Thank you for connecting the dots. You can continue.
I walked into the freaking Brookland venue and went up to the front desk to ask where the networking event was happening because it was happening in back room. I walked in, I didn't see anybody, so I was like, and this guy comes up to the front desk and he goes, "Hey, you're Annie, right?" And I was like, this cannot be happening again. And I was like, yeah, I'm Annie. What's your name? And he goes, oh, I'm Kendi. Abe told me, which by the way, Abe is the guy I met in Brazil. Abe told me to tell you I'm the guy that stole your observer reel.
Oh,
sorry, not stole, copied.
Yeah, copied. Yeah.
I was just so perplexed at how this entire situation formed.
Yeah.
Just like I went to New York on a whim and I happened to meet the guy who copied. I don't think he copied. I think he took inspiration. Like, let's make that clear.
Yeah.
He didn't copy anything.
Yeah.
And I met the dude and I was like, okay, this is really weird. The way that my life has turned out. But it's the word of the day is fun. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. It's also like, I wanted to tell you this story so bad when it happened, but I was like, I can't say it.
You kept on like almost saying it, and I was like, but then it was like, no, I can't tell you. And I'm like, what?
I can't tell you, but yeah, I can't tell you.
Yeah, that's fun. Like your trip.
My trip.
But
like all of my trips. I'm so glad to be home.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it sounds really exhausting. You went from lock-in all the way in Brazil over to New York for a little while to go. Why are you pointing at your eye?
You see these ad bags?
Yeah.
They've increased.
Oh. I actually couldn't tell until you pointed it out.
they've increased since I left. I need to make them less baggy.
Yep. And just sleep a lot more. Because, hey, you came back for a little bit, and then the next thing you know, you were going over to Astral Clash in Vegas, which is kind of like, I wanted to use like this, like Astral Clash to kind of set like a little bit of a milestone, because it's been roughly about a year, if I've got my timelines correct here, that was the first time that you went to Vegas to like, you know, the Thousand Dreams Fund, all of that type of stuff. And you're back 1 year later, just after coming back again. But you know, you just came off of going to like a tier 1 Valorant event, and just like thinking back to like, you know, the very first time that you went to that HyperX Arena, like what was the like milestone, I guess, that was just like being back and being like, oh snap, like it's been almost a year.
Well, I've been to that was my 3rd time at the HyperX Arena.
Yes, yes, I'm aware.
I did go once in the summer to Shadow for a different event, but when I went to the HyperX Arena the first time in April of 2022, I was just an observer back then. I was an observer. I was also broadcast producing, and I was working my full-time job, not in esports. And it was at that trip that I decided I can't do this anymore. I am tired. I want to do esports stuff. So I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to make it happen. And we're going to figure out how to make it happen. And 2 weeks later, actually, while I was on that trip in Las Vegas, I got contacted about the community gaming position. And so it was, when I say I've been very lucky in my career, I really mean I've been very lucky. Like if there is a divine power out there, they're definitely watching out for me, because when I chose it mentally, like I am going to leave my job. And then like a few hours later, I get a message about the position at community gaming where I still currently am. And I was like, dang, the heck is happening here? The story of my entire life. Dang, what the heck is happening here?
Can't wait for the memoir. Sorry, the autobiography.
The autobiography. Dang, what the heck is happening here?
Yeah, the story of Anniepoo.
So spoiler alert, I did take that position. I worked full-time in esports. I also got a lot of different observing and producing gigs after that trip. So yeah, a lot has happened. I went to an international LAN, but the one thing that I hadn't done from that trip, like the goal that I had set was I'm going to quit my job. And I want to come back and observe at the HyperX Arena one day. I had said that to myself and a lot of other people on that trip. And it didn't happen, and I didn't think it was going to happen. I had also just kind of forgotten that I wanted to do that because there were so many other things going on. I started a new job. I did a whole bunch of other things late last year. I can't even remember what I did last year anymore. Went to the international LAN, and then at Astral Clash at the HyperX Arena, I was like, 1 year ago, I would have killed to be here. This is what I wanted to. That was maybe like one of the only things I wanted to do other than arbitrarily like work in esports, whatever the heck that means.
Yep.
But I got to achieve that, and like coming back and observing and meeting that goal that I kind of just had forgotten about brought me back and made me like feel really nostalgic. And I was like thinking about all of the different things that have happened since then and the person that I am now compared to who I was before. I've lost a lot of light in my eyes since last year.
We're not just talking about the eye bags this time, right?
No, not just the eye bags. Just I am tired. But
I can't tell which light you're talking about now, but continue. You are tired, yes.
I've done a lot of things. I feel like I've jam-packed in 1 year what a lot of people do in 2 or 3 years. And so I am tired. I'm not just talking about the eye bags this time. I just mean like in general, I'm fatigued. I've done a lot, but I'm very proud of myself and how far I've come. And I got thrown into an existential crisis because I was also thinking, what do I want to do now? Because the last time I made a goal was in April 2022 when I was at the HyperX Arena, and I achieved both of those goals. And so I sent myself into a horrible existential crisis, and I'm still going through that existential crisis. I don't know what I want to do next. I don't have any goals. I've been moving too fast to develop any goals. So for the next couple of months, I think what I'm going to be doing is just connecting with people. We've talked about in a previous episode that working in esports has forced me to become more extroverted. And I actually enjoy talking to people and meeting new people now compared to before. So I'm going to contact people. I'm just going to hit people up. I'm going to ask people I already know to be introduced to other people in their network, because I want to understand the other jobs that are out there, not just in esports, but also in live event production, and think about, where do I want to be a year from now? Where do I want to be 5 years from now? Like what is my next step, and what skills interest me, and what things do I want to cultivate in order to become a better Anniepoo? So
Anniepoo 2.0. Well, I guess if you
only
achieved your goal
2.0,
already,
I feel like we're on like version 3 or 4 at this point.
What if we subscribe to the Windows system and just skipped a bunch of numbers and you're Anniepoo 6.0?
Oh God.
Anniepoo XP?
Anniepoo XP. Okay. I'm saying is, if you haven't heard it already, there are some remixes of like people, like DJs produce music using the Windows XP songs. They're actual songs and noises. Please listen to them.
The last time we talked about music on the internet, you brought up Bing Chilling remixes left and right, and now you're telling people to go listen to techno remixes of the Windows XP noises. I'm noticing a trend in your music choice, is all I'm saying. And this time it's not Kirby Air, right?
I just really enjoy meme music. What can I say?
As long as I have known you, that has 100% been true. So yeah, that is pretty on brand. But okay, no, like I think that is interesting. Just kind of bringing this back to like your goals. It's always an ongoing process as well. I mean, I think that your example kind of showcases that perfectly. You know, you set one goal where you're just like, this is where I want to be in a year, right? Like observing at the HyperX Arena, that is the goal. And yet here you are, literally going to the tier 1 event, lock in, working it. And, you know, I don't want to speak for you, but observing is no longer like the only big thing that you want to do in the esports space.
Stop, you're going to trigger an existential crisis.
Sorry, but also too, you observed on HyperX, and that is really cool as well, because you're able to actually meet that goal in addition to all of these other things, right? Yeah, so that's very good. But
can we talk about my existential crisis later?
Okay.
Maybe the next episode.
Though, we are at time. Actually, we're kind of a little bit over time here. But yeah. Hey, welcome back. I'm glad you're back. Did
you miss me?
Oh, great. You're going to hit me with that. Yeah, of course I missed you. But you were so busy doing a bunch of different things at the same time. It's just like, you need to just go and do your thing and make all the stuff happen, because, I have a pretty good, not good idea, but a little bit of a rough idea on like all of these crazy things that are in development, because like you'll randomly tell me and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's crazy. And so I'm happy that, you're able to get all of these additional opportunities, even though, it just means that you weren't around as often for us to just kind of like sit down and chat. But I made space. This is why I have other friends too, like Ravish and Betty.
Way to tell me you didn't miss me and you just replaced me with other people. It's fine. I get it. Anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Pushing Buttons podcast today. My name is Anniepoo. Good night. Goodbye. No plugs.
Wow. You just okay. All right.
I'm upset and I want to leave.
The Pushing Buttons podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in once again. Annie is back. Woohoo! Which means that every other week we're going to be checking in. We're going to be heading back into just kind of reflecting about esports as things continue to develop, because clearly, as told by Annie, lots of things can kind of change in the esports scene. Stop scowling at me and pouting so much. That That's for the audio listeners there.
All you had to say was, yes, Annie, I missed you. I'm glad you're back.
Well, I am glad you're back.
No, shut up. Close the podcast.
Very happy.
Close the podcast.
All these opportunities.
Close the podcast.
Am I not allowed to be happy for you? Okay, fine. But if you want to keep up with clips and stuff like that, I'm trying to be a little bit better with the clips being published. So check in on our Twitter at pushbuttonspod. You can go there, see everything that's going on. Of course, we're on YouTube, so feel free to subscribe, like, leave a comment, all that jazz. Or, if you're on a podcasting platform, you prefer to listen to all of the chaos happen while maybe you're running on the treadmill or you're cooking dinner or something like that. That's usually when I listen to podcasts. Then we're on everything there, so make sure to just follow. And, of course, if you leave us a review, fantastic. 5 stars. We love to see it, as well as if you actually type something out, it helps the algorithm recommend this show to other people. Why are you making a fish face right now?
Just close the podcast. Ask me for my thoughts.
Okay, what are your thoughts, Andy? Do you have any closing thoughts for us?
I have no thoughts. I'm LFT. I'm looking for thoughts. Dear Lord, please somebody help me look for thoughts.
Okay, on that happy note, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in to Pushing Buttons.